Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic.
I'm Barry P. Cook. I'm here to talk to you about the latest episode of Wolfpack on Paramount Plus. This episode was called Origin Point, and as it begins, some young people, including Phoebe, show up to a construction site that they're not supposed to be at night to get a view of something, which is apparently the fire. They climb all the way up to this tower that's being built, I guess, and take a gander. And you could literally see the blue screen remnants around one of the kids' heads, or a couple of the kids' heads, which is sloppy. But anyway, they seem to all know that the prevailing theory is that someone on the bus started the fire. And I don't know how they would know that, but they do. And Phoebe says that she has a theory as to who it was. And she says that she thinks it was Blake. Soon they figure out, along with the audience, that the werewolf is creeping around underneath the platform that they're standing on at the top of the construction site. Somehow they figure out that something's down there because they can hear something moving, which of course means something's down there every time when you're standing at the top of a construction site with all kinds of stuff in it and on it in a windy environment. Then the cops show up and they try to take off, only to be met by the police and taken in. Speaking of the police, they have our four heroes in their custody, and our heroes are freaking out about this. Everett, in fact, is having an anxiety attack, and Blake gives them like a stress ball thing that must belong to her brother, with like different textures on it, and holds his hands and teaches him how to manipulate it so that it calms him down. When they get out of the car at like a police headquarters or whatever, and they happen to get close to the police horses, which start to freak out, Luna seems surprised by it. Like she doesn't know that animals react weird when they're near to her, which, like, how could she not know that? Soon enough, our heroes cross paths with the group that was in the building, one of whom I guess has been involved with Harlan. He might be one of the guys that he made out with earlier in the season. I didn't remember his face. I don't know. But as Harlan's walking through the squad room or whatever, he can hear everything everybody's saying in the room. Blake sees Phoebe, and Phoebe tells her that she told the cops that she thinks Blake set the fire. The cops then sit our heroes all together, immediately after which they seem to understand that they need to come up with a story that matches each other's, which is exactly why they wouldn't have been sat together. And then, of course, they absolutely question each kid separately, which is the whole reason they wouldn't have sat them together, as I just mentioned, so that they can get a different story from each kid if, in fact, they're lying. And then that would cause them to know they're lying. Or to get the same story from them to determine that they're not, which now they can't because they sat them together. Sarah Michelle Gellar's character informs Everett that his friend Connor is missing. So, of course, Harlan can hear Everett from the next room, and he can hear her as well. And Harlan figures out that he can hear them and seems to be surprised, which, again, he knows he has good hearing. I don't know. They all seem surprised that they can hear each other, which I'm thinking only two of them should be. They know they're werewolves. Like, do you not know that you can? I don't know. So they use this ability to communicate with each other and get their story straight. Everett says he wants to talk to his folks, but when he's offered a chance to do so, he declines and asks for a lawyer instead. When an asshole officer roughs Harlan up, his dad shows up just in the nick of time. Next, we see that it seems like someone has cut through Phoebe's tires when she tries to leave after she was done being questioned. Then, as she's sitting in her car, a second tire goes flat, then a third, then a fourth, and then she activates her car alarm. As Luna and Harlan are leaving with their dad, Luna lets him know that Blake and Everett are like them, and then they should all leave together, which they do. The father then tells them all that he was also attacked by whatever bit them, and Harlan wants to know if he thinks it was their real dad. And now I'm trying to figure out why their real dad is in werewolf form when they're not, and has been since the beginning, which is something I should have asked myself since the beginning. But anyway, once they get back to the father's house, he explains that they all don't know much more about the situation than Blake and Everett do, which makes no sense, and which Blake immediately recognizes, prompting her to say, wait a minute, haven't those two been this way for a long time? Then Luna and Harlan talk with their dad, and it seems like they're trying to say that the fact that they could all hear each other was some kind of a hive mind thing, as opposed to just werewolf hearing on behalf, on the part of each of them, which is stupid. It turns out that the two of them were not bitten and are werewolves by some other means, which I'm trying to figure out what that would be. They could have been cursed, I guess. And they seem shocked at the idea that Blake and Everett could turn into actual werewolves with fangs and hair and everything after they tell their father that nothing's ever happened to them on a full moon, which we know is not true because they used to be literal pups. So they don't know that? Is that what I'm led to believe? They were never told this? And why don't they turn? We also learned that neither of them have ever killed anything and that the father thinks this might be because they've never had a pack before. Elsewhere in the house, Blake and Everett are getting it on, but only in Blake's mind. Phoebe leaves a nasty message for Harlan because she thinks Blake slashed her tires. And for some reason, the dad thinks he has to go and see if she's okay. So he leaves the house. I don't know why. It turns out that they apparently don't all have the same abilities. Everett is strong, which we know. Harlan has good hearing, which we know. Blake can run really fast, which we know. And Luna has a strong sense of smell, but apparently neither of them have more than that one power each. But why? Why is that? If they like, so again, they can't, they don't all have the good hearing, so it must have been a hive mind thing. And Luna believes that this is because they're a pack, which doesn't make sense because they wouldn't automatically be a pack because all four of them are werewolves and live in the same town. Because I think it takes more than that. Like you have to be the same bloodline, so, which they might be, I guess. But like, I don't know. I guess they're a pack. Who knows? Then they all sense that something awful is outside, and then it's angry. And then Officer Miller knocks on the door, the guy that roughed up Harlan before, still wanting to ask a few follow-up questions because apparently he didn't take no for an answer when the father told him not to talk to his kids without a lawyer. Blake and Everett go down the hall to hide in the office because Harlan doesn't want the cop to know they're there. And then it seems like it was Everett's turn to have a dream about getting it on with Blake. When Harlan goes outside, the officer once again starts roughing him up because apparently he didn't hear when his boss told him not to do that either. Then the werewolf shows up and attacks the cop. Harlan calls his father, who is on his way back, and he directs them to get a rifle out of the stable. So they have a stable. And when they question that, he tells them this rifle is different, which of course means it has silver bullets. Blake and Everett are now alone in the house, and they get yet another call from the voice that tells them not to leave the house. Meanwhile, the cop seems not to be doing very well after having been attacked, so he's stumbling around in the woods surrounding the father's house and tries to walk towards his gun, which is now on the ground, and he sees the werewolf in the distance. It turns out that since, of course, they have a stable on their property, Harlan and Luna's father owns a horse, which for some reason Luna only now seems to realize acts weird around her. Like, what? Back in the woods, the officer is attacked again by the wolf, who attacked him and then walked away and then went back for him. I don't understand why. But this time, the wolf messes him up something fierce, and by that I mean literally squashes his head against the tree. Now Blake and Everett are leaving the house because, again, nobody listens to anybody on the show, apparently. And it isn't long before they see the wolf again, and it gets real up close and personal with Everett, a la Sigourney Weaver in Alien. But then Harlan takes a shot at it, and it takes off. Everett wonders why it didn't kill him, and that doesn't make sense given that it tried to kill he and Blake at Blake's house. But Luna says it's because they're connected, which causes Everett to say, we're part of its pack. But if that's the case, like Everett said, why did it try to kill them before and not now? So even he realizes that doesn't make sense. At this point, the kids have realized the bullets are silver, and they're very upset with their dad because they realize that he made them himself so that he could kill them, as well as any other werewolves, I guess. And that's where the episode ends. And, you know, I do find that I'm liking the show more and more as the episodes come out, but it's still kind of wobbly in some aspects, including but not limited to the wonky exposition type dialogue that keeps coming up. So, I mean, you know, I'm not loving it yet, but I don't absolutely hate it. I do have questions like, why do these kids seem to think that it's a strange idea that people might actually turn into werewolves, you know, with fangs and hair and all that? Because they used to be pups. So, like I was saying earlier, has their father not told them that? And have they not turned into werewolves this whole time? Between the time they first turned back to humans and now? Is that why they don't know that that can actually happen? Like, did he not tell them that? Like, what? I have questions. I have questions. So, you know, and like I was saying before, why do they all have different abilities? Like, in most werewolf lore, all werewolves can run fast, hear well, smell well, and all that stuff, but they can't telepathically communicate, to my recollection. So I don't know. This show is making up shit as it goes along in terms of werewolf lore. So I don't know. Maybe it'll make more sense as more episodes come out. Sarah Michelle Gellar was in this episode more, which was good, but she's still not in it enough for my taste. And I still think that there's more going on with her than meets the eye. I think she's a werewolf too, or something, or she's a werewolf hunter. She's not just a fire investigator. They didn't really say anything about what's happening to Connor, so we still don't know. Hopefully, we'll learn more about that, which means there's a chance he's not dead, which would be good, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. It's not a horrible show. It's got some pitfalls. Maybe some of them will turn out not to be pitfalls, as things that I don't yet understand are explained. The Blake character is very, very enjoyable to look at. And as I mentioned before, she's very much a legal 21 years old. But yeah, I'm going to keep watching and, you know, keep hoping it improves and that things get explained. But that's really all I have to say about it. I'm going to get out of here. I'll be back with a review of the next episode once it's released. Until I return, I wish you peace and long life.